Chapter 10. In the Aftermath. What happens next is an internal investigation into the incident. A very deep, very thorough investigation that is far more complicated given Neal's civilian status and prison release deal. They won't let Peter and Neal talk to each other until the interrogations, have been concluded. So naturally, the two of them spend their days in the hospital passing messages back and forth between nurses and visitors, and even once via a meal tray. Yeah, Peter isn't quite sure how Neal managed that. Today, hopefully, is the last day of interviewing. They haven't given him an actual schedule or anything, but it's been one agency per day, and the two U.S. Marshals sitting in front of them are the last ones who ought to have any stake in the proceedings. Unless, heaven forbid, Neal's caught himself the eye of the CIA. One more day, he thinks. Then I can see Neal. Then I can talk to him. There are several interviewers or investigators, or whoever they are, over the course of a few days. They don't tell him who they're investigating on behalf of. It's not that hard for Jason to figure it out, though. Today, he's being questioned by two people he's mentally dubbed as taller and shorter. It's not that they don't introduce themselves. They did. Jason doesn't care. "Thank you for your cooperation," Shorter begins. "Please walk us through the events of that night. We'll ask questions for clarification when necessary." "We arrived at the scene at about 1 o'clock in the morning," Peter recalls. "Then we waited for about half an hour." "What did you talk about while waiting?" "Nothing. We just sat in silence." "Is that normal?" "I would say so. Not unusual, but certainly not abnormal." "What caused you to decide to enter the school?" "The car showed up," Jason answers. "Whose car?" "Danny Diaz, Marina Leon's boyfriend." "Why didn't you call for backup?" "I don't know," Peter admits. "We should have. We even said we should wait for backup. But we didn't. We just went in." "Why did you feel it was necessary to enter the school?" "We were worried about retaliation from the Leons," Jason explains. "The kid's like 16. "And at what time did you exit the vehicle?" "I'm not sure. It was some time after 1 o'clock in the morning," Peter answers. "Did you ask Mr. Caffrey to come with you?" "No." "Why did you follow Agent Burke into the building?" "I didn't. We went in together." "What do you mean?" Jason gives a blank look. "I mean, together, in sync, at the same time." "Which was when Neal found me and said we had to go. Then my phone rang, and they opened the door, and we ran." "At what point did you realize what you had found was not an antique smuggling operation like you had suspected?" "About the time I opened the box that was full of a hell of a lot of cocaine." Jason deadpans. "Why didn't you leave immediately?" "Because I had to go get Peter." "Why did you go upstairs, instead of exiting the building after you were shot?" "I don't know. Neal decided that." "Why was your CI making the calls in that situation?" "I don't think I can express to you how little control I had over anything that happened from that point onward." Jason shrugs at the question from Shorter. "A downstairs bathroom seemed like a bad idea." "Why a bathroom?" "Where else are you going to find supplies to pack a gunshot wound? We were damn lucky there even were any." "Why did you impersonate your handler and destroy your GPS tracker?" Taller asks Jason. "So you would all know where he was? FBI agents are a more valuable bargaining chip.
I was hoping they'd take me and leave Peter. Then you guys would find him. I was in better shape. I could go with them." "And do you regret the actions you took?" "Of course I regret it." He frowns, affronted. "Peter almost died." "After Agent Burke was shot," Shorter clarifies. "Oh," he says. "I don't know about regret, exactly. I keep thinking I could have done better. Maybe we could have made it to the doors. I didn't even think about finding other exits. Maybe I could have gotten him straight to a hospital if I had. But maybe he wouldn't have made it to a hospital without the triage I did. I don't know. He was in bad shape. Maybe I could have triaged it better. I should have called someone, but I was so focused on Peter, and then they found us."
They glance at each other and write things down. Jason resists the urge to twitch his fingers. His hand is itching inside its cast. He's been telling the same story over and over again for days. And it's not even interesting because it's the truth. Visiting hours are over by the time the U.S. Marshals finish their questioning and leave, though not before leaving Jason with a shiny new GPS tracker. It would be a shame that so much time was taken up if visiting hours mattered at all when they were literally on the same hallway. Something settles in Jason when he sees his friend alive and awake and breathing with his own eyes.
"Hi, Peter," he says.
"Neal," his handler breathes. "Neal,
The twins are having a rough season, huh?"
Jason interrupts. He's had enough truth and vulnerability for the next 6 months, at least. Peter doesn't respond. He stares at him, studying his face for long enough to stretch the silence. Jason wishes they'd let him use crutches instead of a wheelchair. His leg doesn't even hurt that badly. He doesn't like the awkward, looking up but not because Peter is lying down angle.
"Your daughter and a police officer brought me flowers,"
Peter finally says.
"Why?" "Because she likes you," Jason replies. "You have a dog."
"You know that's not why I was asking." Jason smiles.
"That's why I'm answering, though. Else sneaking you in any proper sustenance? Lian is doing her best to drown me in pho. It's terribly sweet of her."
"You have a good kid, Neal." Peter smiles.
"Yeah,"
Jason agrees.
"Yeah, I really do."
"I cleaned your house," Tim announces, striding into his hospital room long after visiting hours have ended, wearing a set of scrubs and a mask. "I was worried about rats. You left it a mess. And I made Lian go back to school. How come your kid keeps trying to play hooky when you're such a nerd? And I used up the groceries you got, the ones that would go bad fast. Did you just buy them? I mean, days ago. Before. Lian's got a science project coming up. You know, I never read the school emails because you think they're going to send home newsletters, but her school emails them."
"Tim."
Jason cuts him off. His head hurts. This is exactly why he wears a helmet.
"Stop fretting. It's my own damn fault. Go shove your guilt into someone else's ears."
The 1 week, Jason. The 1 week I was tangled up in shit on the other side of the globe.
"I don't want to hear it, Bristol. Not when I've been repeating my failures over and over again to various representatives of the United States government for the better part of the week. Including Dick, who showed up to yell at me on literally the first day."
Tim opens his mouth. Jason cuts him off with a glare.
"Yes, sir. No, sir. No, we did not call for backup. Yes, I forgot to tell anyone where we were going. Yes, we waltzed right into the cartel's depot without even stopping to think for one single moment. Days and days, Timothy. And disappointed siblings, bringing disappointed Lian.
Tim sighs.
I'd have gone in too, you know. So would any of the others. And if they're telling you otherwise, they're full of shit. They're always full of shit,
Jason replies, rubbing his leg next to the bandages. The dressing on the stab is itching, and he can't touch it.
Sit. You're staying. I don't like looking up.
Tim sits.
That's such a tall person thing to say. Guess you can't relate then.
Tim flips him off. Jason startles awake. Someone is in his room. He feigns sleep as they creep silently up to his bed. They're large. He cracks an eye and sees a familiar looming shape as they cross through the light from the window. Jason doesn't move as Bruce sits down in the chair pulled up to his bedside and carefully takes his uninjured hand. If his grip tightens and return ever so slightly in the darkness, well, nobody needs to know. Reese Hughes finally makes it over to the hospital to visit his 2 injured men on the day Neal Caffrey is set to be sent home, which is the day after they've wrapped up the interviews. He stops by that room first.
Right.
Neal starts as a greeting.
How much trouble am I in? How's the pain, Caffrey? Unremarkable. How much trouble am I in?
The agent in charge of White Collar sits down.
Why do you think you're in trouble?
Neal raises an eyebrow.
I'm not falling for that.
You aren't in trouble, Caffrey, Hughes says.
Peter is. Why is Peter in trouble?
Neal asks, shocked.
What did he do?
Peter was the one in charge. Ultimately, the responsibility for what happened falls on him.
He was doing his job.
Peter's job does not include reckless endangerment of a civilian resulting in grievous injuries.
But Peter's the one who got shot.
Hughes looks pointedly down at the cast, still encasing his hand. The younger man grimaces.
You can't blame Peter for that. That was entirely self-inflicted, and even told me not to.
Did he tell you not to leave the car?
No,
Neal admits.
But he didn't ask me to come with him either. We both just got out, just like I told those interviewers. My story isn't changing. I told the truth the first time.
The fact remains that Peter isn't the only one who got shot, Caffrey, and beaten, and stabbed.
That wasn't Peter's fault. That was my fault. He told me to get out, in the bathroom. I ignored him, so I'm the one who was disobeying orders. And I took his gun. That's probably theft, and also illegal possession of a firearm. I only got hurt later because I was pretending to be him, and that's impersonation of a federal officer. I shot first, in the bathroom. That's gotta open me up to, like, assault or attempted murder or something.
I've been wondering about that, actually. Hughes interrupts. Why didn't you hit any of them? Neal shrugs one shoulder, attempting to maintain his casual airs, but Hughes can see that he's closing off. He's hit a tender spot.
Guess I just have bad aim, the con man says. You know I don't like guns.
You shot through the band of your own GPS tracker without looking, if Peter is to be believed, with no harm to yourself. Neal's expression shudders, and he looks away.
It's different,
he says after a moment.
It's different when you're aiming at a person.
Is that something you've had experience with before? Neal is silent, still looking away. That's all right. Hughes can wait.
You just need a fall guy, right?
He finally replies.
So if I get in enough trouble, Peter gets off scot-free?
That's not how this works, Caffrey. He turns back with a raised eyebrow.
Isn't it? That's not how it's supposed to work. And it isn't how it's going to work now. How much trouble is Peter in, then?
I don't know yet, Hughes admits.
It depends what the investigation turns up. Worst case scenario?
An extended probation, probably. It depends on how they weigh Peter's record against the both of you in the hospital, but... Here he pauses. This is the harder part. There is the possibility that they will end your partnership.
What?
The marshals are very unhappy with the FBI over this, Caffrey. They could decide to end your deal for your own safety. The internal investigation team may decide that Peter is unfit to handle a criminal informant. Washington is getting involved. This is out of any of our hands now.
Not my hands,
Jason thinks. He calls Tim as soon as Hughes leaves.
Blaming Peter for the whole thing, which is ridiculous since he was completely incapacitated for most of it. But they're going to hold him responsible.
Jason, Tim interrupts. He's driving home from the hospital.
They're right.
Jason scowls.
It's not Peter's fault. It's my fault. I can't let him take the fall for it.
It is Peter's fault. Tim shakes his head. Peter's the ranking agent. You're a CI. The responsibility is his.
But I'm not actually a CI.
What if you were, Jay? If you really were Neal Caffrey, you both would be dead. That's the point of this. Peter messed up. Yeah, you messed up too. Everyone on your team messed up. None of you were in a condition to be working. Peter should have sent everyone home to sleep. Hell, he probably shouldn't have been even driving. Diana and Jones have the kind of rapport with him that they could have protested the decision for you two to go on the stakeout. Yes, you could have as well, but you aren't the only member of that team, Jason, even if you're by far the deadliest.
The point isn't that we were wrong, Tim. The point is that we, the family, chose Peter to be the agent most heavily involved on this mission. So if my involvement in his career destroys it, that's on us. I'm not about to let his life's work become civilian collateral in our mission. That's not fair. He doesn't deserve that.
This isn't Peter's career becoming civilian collateral, Jason. This is the consequences of Peter's own actions.
Not because of me,
he protests. Tim scowls, making a turn. Jason, what part of Peter making the wrong choice don't you get? If you were actually the person they all believe you are, both of you would be dead.
But I'm not just a CI. That's the whole point.
But he thinks you are. Tim glances back in the rearview mirror and changes lanes. Think of it this way, Jay. What if this case was a case we took? FBI agent with an unprofessionally close relationship with his criminal informant chooses to take said informant into an unmapped, abandoned building with potential hostiles they have no information about, in the dark, at night, without telling anyone where they're going. Said agent is shot and killed. Said informant is also shot and killed. Or, how's this? Said agent is shot. Informant attempts to save his life. Cartel captures both. They attempt to hold the agent for ransom. Agent dies. They attempt the same with the informant. Informant is tortured and also dies. Or, perhaps, they find the GPS tracker that the informant wears at the abandoned school. They decide it's too much of a bother. Informant is shot and killed. They finish off the dying agent too, then dump both bodies in the river? Who is ultimately responsible for the choices that led to these situations? Yeah, the members of the cartel pulled the trigger, but who's responsible for putting the agent and the criminal informant in the path of those bullets in the first place? Jason doesn't respond. Tim sighs. Peter didn't even put on a vest. He didn't offer his unarmed, untrained civilian informant one either. Neal Caffrey and Peter Burke would have both died in there, Jay. That's what this is about. This is a lesson that they have to learn, because next time, it's not going to be a bat walking into an abandoned school, and then the only thing coming out is a body bag. It just feels like it's my fault. I'm the one who got Peter involved in the first place, when I agreed to take on this job. What if they forbid Peter from working with informants again? Maybe they should, Jason. Because of me? You aren't getting my point! Tim throws his hands up in frustration. If you were who the FBI thinks you are, just a regular informant, the last thing Peter Burke would have ever seen would have been his best friend's brutal execution before he also died, Jason, leaving behind a wife and a child, knowing it was his own fault that Neal's child is left fatherless. Peter doesn't treat you like an informant. Maybe he can't actually handle one. Thank you, Tim. I think you've made your point very fucking clear, actually. Jason swallows. He knows exactly what Peter's final moments would have looked like. He hates Tim, a little bit, for conjuring up the imagery, fabricated from the memories of the many bloody deaths he's witnessed and caused. Peter isn't going to make a mistake like this again. No, Tim agrees. I imagine that you won't either. That's not how organizational policy change works, though. This whole investigation might be about you and Peter, but it isn't for you and Peter. It's for every other current and future agent-informant pair. How many times have you almost been killed in the last 2 years, Jay? Where else are CIs being shamelessly tossed into harm's way? How many have been killed because they don't have your skill and expertise, Jason? Peter won't make a mistake like this again. Ruiz would. That agent from Missing Persons would. This is about them. This is about the potential harm that could come to everyone who comes after you. And that right there, coming from his own successor as Robin, the boy who'd chosen to wear the cape after Jason died in it, the kid Jason almost killed to prove the point Tim's making now, that fucking hits. It hits him in the chest like a crowbar. Jason swears at him. The rest of the drive is silent. Jason and Tim have settled grumpily in his apartment. Tim's working on a laptop at the table, while Jason pretends to sleep on the couch when there's a knock on the door. Neal? Diana's voice calls through the door. Are you home? Yeah, come in. Jason calls back. Hey, Diana starts. I'd heard you were discharged. How are you doing? Oh, hello. She trails off at the side of Tim at the table. Hi, I'm Jackie. Tim offers a hand, standing up. Nice to meet Mr. Drake? Diana falters. Tim scowls. Gee whiz, Asian tech guy, must be Timothy fucking Drake, he says, turning to Jason. You've made better choices in company. You've made worse, he counters. Yeah, you for one. Tim scoffs and crosses his arms. Whatever. Don't get all pissy with Diana 'cause you're mad at me, Jason scolds. arm across his eyes. He's pretending his thumb isn't throbbing. I'm mad. You're the one who's mad. You know what? I'm just gonna go get Lian from school. Good? Good. Bye. I'm not mad, Jason calls out from across the couch as Tim leaves. Neal. Tim sticks his head back through the door. Literally everyone can tell when you're mad. It's the only emotion you can't mask. Go fuck yourself. Get your shit together before me and Lian are back. Jason flips him off with his other hand. Who was that? Diana asks with a raised eyebrow once Tim's gone. Jackie. And who's Jackie? Jason lifts his arm. An anonymous source. Diana's face lights up with realization. So that's why you're fighting. We're not fightin', Jason insists. The days after Jason gets home are quiet. Lian goes to school in the morning and ballet most afternoons and evenings. Jason is left home, alone, since he can't go to work for another 2 weeks. Lian isn't talking to him very much anyways. The silence stretches for hours, those first few days. It gives him too much time to think. Everything that was piling up during the long, tedious Shakespeare case is now finally lanced free like a wound. Nothing brings Jay clarity like the shot of pure adrenaline from a life or death situation. And being fully and completely Jason Todd, for the first time in years, had cut through the mirror that had settled around him. He'd held Peter's gun and withstood Diaz's torture and remembered just exactly who Jason Todd is. But now, he stands alone on his balcony and gazes upon New York City, Neal Caffrey's city, and tries to trace the line of where the actor ends and the character begins, and realizes that he can't find it. There isn't a line, not anymore. He hobbles downstairs to June's piano. Lian wants him to learn Tchaikovsky's The Sleeping Beauty. He can do that much, at least. Cass has a long break between company class and rehearsals in the morning and the extra classes she's been taking in the evening. Soon, she'll have performances at night, but today, she grabs a sandwich and takes the subway uptown to Jason's apartment. Her plan is simple. Make Jason play piano for her to practice her new role to. Her ulterior motive is equally so. Playing piano is good for Jason, and helping people makes him feel better. 2 birds, 1 stone. Slipping silently into June's house and down her hallways is easy. Halfway to the stairs up to Jason's flat, though, a familiar melody reaches her, and she changes course. She pushes open the doors to the ballroom, finding her brother already at the instrument. He's either so focused he hasn't noticed her entry, or hasn't bothered to acknowledge her presence. She's already wearing warm-ups, so she slips into her flat shoes and makes her way to center. She knows this dance. Jason glances over near the end of the song and smiles. He doesn't stop playing, though, and instead moves straight into a difficult pas de deux from the same ballet. Cass pauses briefly to stick her tongue out at him, and then struggles partnerness through the almost 6 minutes of a dance that is meant for 5. Rose agate is not for 1, she complains at the end. I know, Jason smirks. I'm playing with 9 fingers instead of 10. You can dance with 1 person instead of 5. Cass walks back to her bag by the door and sits down, fishing through it for her point shoes. Can you help? She asks. Extra rehearsing. Don't you have another class tonight? Jason turns around on the bench, watching her slip into her shoes and tie off the ribbons. She taps the hard shoes on the floor before standing up.
Don't push yourself too hard, see?
No one is hitting me, she scoffs. Easy. Jason gives her a look, but his response is to play her first variation in Giselle. Jason's been home for over a week. Lian is still barely talking to him. I have a finite number of fathers, and I'm running low on them.
What do I do, Harper?
He asks out loud, standing on the balcony in the middle of the night, bundled in a sweater. It's honestly too cold. He should go in, maybe grab a blanket.
Roy would be wearing a tank top with one of his sleeveless hoodies and claim he was warm enough because he was wearing a hat, and that I should always wear hats too. She's real mad at me this time, Red. Have I given her enough space? Was giving her space the wrong move? She's so afraid of us leaving her. Should I reach out?
A breeze blows right through the knit of his sweater. He pulls it tighter.
I don't want to push her away. I don't know where she'd go if she doesn't want to stay with me anymore. I still haven't heard anything about the arrows. Just that Star's a mess. Trust him to run the city into the ground as soon as you're...
Jason cuts himself off and swallows.
Maybe Jade talked to them. I don't know.
Dozens of lights glitter across the Manhattan above the hazy glow of her ever-busy streets. They remind Jason of the stars, just a bit. He hasn't truly seen the stars in 2 years. Sure, he's had a glimpse of a bright one here and there. Any one of his siblings would snidely point out that their own son is a star, so he sees one plenty if they're feeling particularly pedantic. But no, what he wants aren't glimpses. He wants clean air and the light of celestial diamonds. He wants an empty wilderness with a glittering open sky. The tracker around his ankle feels heavier than it has in years. Jason's first day back at work is pretty much what he expected at the start. At least one person is staring at him at all times. That's normal enough. It was worse when he first started here. As the day progresses, though, it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. He finally caves during lunch.
Diana,
he hisses, sneaking up next to her in the break room.
What's going on?
What do you mean? She asks, pretending like Jason didn't spook her.
Why is everyone being weird?
She glances around. If you would elaborate.
Gang said good morning to me. Hemmingsworth brought me coffee. Nobody else ever brings me coffee. I'm the one who brings other people coffee. Carlson asked me how I was doing, and Hernandez, of all people, held open a door for me. Since when does he do that? What's going on?
Neal, she says, every agent on this floor watched you get beaten and stabbed. Over and over. We're all just glad you're alive.
What? Everyone saw that?
We were trying to find you. Of course we did. He buries his face in his hands.
This is mortifying.
You saved Peter's life.
Yeah, and y'all watched the fucking ransom video. I'm never going to be able to look any of you in the eye ever again.
It's not like it was a sex tape.
It's just as bad.
How on earth is that just as bad?
Please,
he scoffs, rolling his eyes.
Violence is far more intimate than pleasure.
Neal, what the fuck? That probably was not a Neal thing to say.
Wow, Jason says. Would you look at the time? I guess lunch is over.
And hightails it out of the break room. Diana offers him a ride at the end of the day. He calls a cab instead. Cass is sitting cross-legged on his couch when he gets home, ensconced in one of his hoodies and a pair of Bab's sweatpants. I pushed myself too hard, she sighs.
Did you get hurt?
He asks, scanning for any sign of injuries underneath her baggy clothing. She shakes her head no. Just too much.
Well then, he smiles. How about soup?
Dancing is good, Cass tells him quietly, once they're curled up on the couch with mugs of broccoli cheese soup. I know the steps, but partnering is hard. She takes a sip. I don't like him close. Not a bad person, she assures Jason at his concerned look. Very nice. Good dancer. She sighs into her soup. I just tense. People hit when they're close.
We always compare fightin' to dancin', Jason muses. I guess they aren't quite so similar after all.
Partner is important, Cass continues. Cannot dance in the company only solo.
Cass, you know you don't actually have to have a career, right? You don't have to work in a company. B will support you.
Want to, she insists. Not my father. Not my other father. Ballet is only me. Not letting it stop me. I'll learn to partner.
You can do it, Cass, he assures her. I know you can.
He texts Dick to learn the men's counterpart for Cass's role in Giselle, and packs some of the soup for Lian's lunch tomorrow. Tim's feeding her tonight, on the way home from her evening class. Clinton Jones watches Neal sit down at his desk after getting up for water. He sits smoothly, but Jones catches the way he keeps the weight off his bad leg as soon as he can. He even sits in a way that keeps any pressure off of it. The con man hides pain so well. There's no trace of a limp when he walks. He offers Neal a ride home from work. Rumors are creeping in, seeping out of the internal and external investigations. Lips have tightened now that Neal's back in the office, even though Peter is out for several weeks more. Jones is pretty sure he's only hearing so much given his reputation for being so friendly. He's all smiles and concern and, no, really, what else did they say? And his fellow agents just spill. He has one of those faces that people will just tell anything to. And contrary to popular belief, he does know how to use it. He works with Neal Caffrey, for fuck's sake. He hasn't said anything to Diana yet, but the pieces he's put together so far are thus. The consensus is that Neal's relationship with his handler is not appropriate. Peter has too much power for them to be so close. No one is suspecting an abuse of that power, but some are suggesting that events occurred as they did because both Peter and Neal seem to forget that Neal is not an agent. Neal is a civilian and a convicted felon on prison release at that. The most likely outcome seems to be that they separate them. Peter cannot be Neal's handler any longer. In Neal's case, though, there's a few further steps. Either he goes back to prison, which they might be able to do. What Neal did was nothing short of heroic. Everyone knows it. But Neal and Peter have made enemies in the FBI. And he did, technically, break some laws and also the terms of his work release agreement. Jones knows it would never hold up in court, but the case isn't going to court, because Neal is technically still in prison. He could be transferred to a different FBI agent. Jones knows Hughes would volunteer. He's suspicious that Anderson would also take Neal if given the chance. He's heard rumors about art crimes in Washington poking around, too. Or Neal's sentence could be commuted. Jones is sure very few people could successfully argue with that ruling after all this. He keeps his thoughts to himself, though, and drives Neal home. He allows himself to be invited up to his apartment for a glass of iced tea. The weather has taken an abrupt climb from pleasant spring to the muggy beginnings of a miserable NYC summer.
"Can I ask you something?"
Jones asks, taking a sip. The tea's pretty good, actually.
"Sure."
Neal leans back against the counter.
"Doesn't mean I'll answer." "You took a lot of risks that night. Illegal possession of a firearm, impersonating a federal officer. If this ends your deal and they send you back, will you still not regret it?"
"Yes," Neal answers without hesitation.
"I mean, I won't be happy because I think that if that's what happens, it'll be because of a bunch of contrived bullshit, rather than an actually decent ruling. But I won't regret having done what I did." "It was still illegal, though." "Peter was literally dying. I would have done damn near anything. Possession of a firearm and impersonation of a federal officer? Please."
He shakes his head.
"So it wasn't technically legal. It was right. What is legal and what is right are not always the same thing. Come on, Jones. This is like Ethics 101. Was that really all you wanted to ask me?"
"No," he says.
"How the fuck did you shoot off that tracker?"
Neal laughs and mimes the action of drawing from a side holster and firing downwards.
"Simple, clean, straightforward." "And you didn't even flinch." "Oh, sure I did. You just can't flinch until the bullet's already in the floor." "Simple. Sure."
Jones shakes his head. He swirls the ice around in his glass.
"You know exactly what you're doing with one of those, don't you?"
Neal stills.
"Come on, Neal. I'm not going to snitch on you. I know you don't like them. I don't think you use them. But you know your way around one better than most of the office, don't you? 6 years at least without touching one, and you still made that shot in the field, on yourself, with a gun you've never held before." "I have held it,"
Neal comments quietly.
"I disarmed Peter once, here in my kitchen." "Why?" "He should not have been pointing it at the person he was pointing it at."
Jones looks around Neal's apartment. It doesn't reveal the secrets he wishes it would.
"You could have just taken those guys out in the school."
"Yeah," Neal admits.
"I could have. Any one of us would have." "I know," Neal says. "I didn't, though." "Look."
Jones sets down his glass.
"I don't know what kind of history you have, but no one would have blamed you. Hell, the DEA would have probably thanked you. I don't know if it's like a moral or religious thing or some kind of history, but sometimes those are the calls we have to make." "I know. Believe me, I know."
He shakes his head.
"I keep replaying it all. I don't know if I made the right call. If any one thing had gone differently, it would have been the wrong one. It was too risky, too volatile. I shouldn't have let it get that far." "It wasn't your fault, Neal."
Jones sighs.
"If we hadn't gotten out, it would have been."
"Neal,
You know Peter is the one who's ultimately responsible for putting you both in that situation? Peter is responsible for walking us into that school, he replies. But that does not absolve me of the responsibility for not getting us out of it when I absolutely could have. You mean not taking them down at the school? You mean that if Peter had died?
Neal laughs shakily.
If Peter had died, I would have never forgiven myself for not taking the kill shots. I hesitated. I wouldn't do it. I could have dropped all 3 of them before they finished opening the door, and I didn't. So if Peter hadn't made it out, that would have been on me.
Neal stares out of the glass doors onto his balcony. Jones watches him.
Why didn't you? It was the kid's car.
He shakes his head.
It was too dark. I only heard 2 of their voices. I didn't know if the 3rd one was the kid from the museum. I wasn't gonna risk it. Not even for Peter? I've got a lot of dead friends on my conscience. I'm not adding any 16-year-olds.
Neither has more to say to that, both men contemplative.
This is how Anderson knows you.
Jones finally breaks the silence.
He was absolutely sure of your skills while we were searching for you both, like he knew a different version of you.
Neal doesn't respond.
Did you serve with him?
Jones asks.
No.
Neal sighs.
But that's where he met me. Overseas. Why were you there?
Neal doesn't respond for a long while.
Sometimes,
he finally says.
Sometimes you're a 17-year-old and exceptionally skilled and completely powerless. And powerful people promise you things, promise you training, promise you that same power. And it's great. It's fantastic. It's intoxicating, and you're finally sure of yourself for the first time in your life. And then,
he swallows.
And then, suddenly, shockingly, painfully, you're reminded of who you were before, what you used to believe in, what you thought you were dying for before. And maybe, just maybe, you drop everything and make the right decision for the first time in years.
Neal, Jones asks softly.
Did you desert? No.
He shakes his head.
I was on a private contract, at-will employment. But I made a big mess, and I left without cleaning it up. What did you do? I got someone out, he says. Someone we were not supposed to get out. Waltzed right in there and snatched him up. But hey.
Here he smiles that familiar smile.
I've always been a thief.
Jason lays in bed that night. Sleep again eludes him. It's really getting to be a problem. He has more than enough problems.
I'm too close, he thinks. Too comfortable. I shouldn't have told Jones what I did. I shouldn't have said that to Diana. They aren't my friends. They're Neal's friends. I do not live here. I am on an undercover mission. These people are not actually my friends or my team. I wish they were my friends. They feel just like my own team. I wasn't supposed to get close here. 2 years. 2 years and I thought I could just walk away. Nice arrogance, Todd. Undermined by your own feeble sensibilities once again. Lian likes it here in New York. If only everything wasn't a lie. They're friends with Neal. But I am Neal. I made him. He's always been me. He wouldn't exist without me. He's real to everyone here, even June. She knows my name, but she doesn't know Jason. I've always been Neal to her. How long does it take for the lie I live to become the truth?
2 weeks back at work, and there's still no sign of Peter. He gets a message every couple of days from Elizabeth with a short update, usually just reassurances that he's recovering well. No one except for Jones and Diana talked about him in front of Jason. He hasn't been strictly ordered to stay away from his handler, but he can take a hint. He'd asked Peter if he could come over, and the older man had said that it would be best for him not to. He does his best to just try to wait it out and keep going on with his life as normally as he can. Jason hopes it has something to do with whatever the many investigations he's not privy to are doing. He hopes he hasn't done something to lose Peter's friendship. He's not really in a place to be losing any more friends right now. It's a lovely, cool, foggy day. He decides to try walking home from work and slips out at the end of the day before anyone notices. He gets halfway home before accepting that it was, in fact, a bad idea. His nice, deep stab wound might have been healing well, but it still aches by the time he's gone a few blocks. He debates calling Tim, but Tim will tell Alfred, who might go so far as to send a letter. Jason deliberates for a moment longer before giving in and calling a number he hasn't tried in months. He's not sure it'll even still work after the events of their last meeting. It does.
Hi, Mozzie.
His friend comes to pick him up. They complete the drive to June's in silence, though the shorter man glances at him as frequently as he can in the traffic. Mozzie Street parks on Riverside Drive. Neither man gets out of the car. "Why did you lie to me?" Mozzie finally asks.
At what point was I supposed to bring it up?
Jason counters. "At any point, but you didn't, which means you were deliberately hiding it from me." Jason sighs.
You were never a mark, Moz.
Then why did you lie? Do you think it would have mattered to me? Is that how I come across to you?
The fact that I'm literally an assassin.
No, the fact you're in a relationship with another man. Kate, Alex, Sarah, all those girls. Were you just smoke screening? After everything we went through.
What?
Was it a matter of trust? Do you not trust me? Do you think I'd react badly?
Are you joking?
Do you think I'm homophobic? Do I come across as homophobic to you? Is that...
You're not joking,
Jason realizes. And then with Lian, you could have just told me. I knew she wasn't biologically your daughter. You weren't fooling me anyways. You could have always said she was your stepdaughter.
How did you?
Lian has trackers in your phone. She used my computer to find you.
Wait a minute. Lian was there?
Lian Rose Harper. Lian's head shoots up from where she's doing homework at the kitchen counter as the door bursts open. She hadn't heard Jay come up the stairs. She scowls. My middle name isn't Rose.
I don't care. Were you in Queens that night?
Uh-oh. Where's Queens? She tries the innocent act.
You were the one who set off that fire alarm.
She crosses her arms. So what?
So what?
Yeah, she challenges. So what? I shot out the fire alarm. It helped, didn't it?
You are 9 years old.
Dick started when he was 9.
And that was a mistake. You could have gotten hurt, Lian. What were you thinking?
I was thinking that you were in trouble, which you were. You never came home from work, so I went to your work, and I found out what was going on. I was afraid that they would go searching June's house, So then I went and found your friend Mozzie, so I could use his computer. Then I went and got some stuff from one of my dad's old stashes. Then I shot out the fire alarm with a smoke bomb arrow, and then I went to the hospital. Everything turned out fine.
This time, Lian, everything turned out fine. This time. You are so lucky.
I'm not lucky, she interrupts him, practically spitting out the last word. I'm good.
Bad things happen to the very best, Lian. It was too risky for you to do this by yourself.
But it was fine.
You should have asked for help. Why didn't you call anyone? Cass was here.
Because I was scared, she shouts. What if nobody came, even if I asked them to? What if I lost you? You're the only one I've got, so I just went and did it myself. Jason runs a hand through his hair.
I appreciate it, Lian. Honest. But it was too dangerous for...
Oh my gosh, fine. Next time I'll call someone.
Next time? There isn't gonna be a next time. You're never pulling something like this again. You hear me?
That's not fair.
This isn't about what's fair, Lian. It's about you surviving to adulthood.
What? You think I'm not good enough? I'm way better than you even know.
Lian, please just trust that maybe, just maybe, I know what I'm talking about. This is not a job for kids.
I can keep up just as well as anybody else.
I am trying to protect you.
That's what you always fucking say, Dad. Well, maybe I'd rather get to see you more than twice a year than be safe. She stops short, realizing what she's just said. Jay has a shocked look on his face. He'd caught it too. Get it together, Harper. This is why everybody treats you like some kid.
Lian,
Jason says.
He's trying to keep you safe. He loves you too much to let you go out where you could get hurt.
Why doesn't he trust me? She asks softly.
Why aren't you here, Roy? She needs you. You shouldn't have gone. It's not...
Jason starts. Lian's glare flares back up. She takes a breath, ready to fight with whatever he's going to say. Jason closes his eyes, counts to 10, and breathes.
Get it together, Todd. Don't raise your voice. You don't need to make her listen. You need to make her understand.
He turns and walks to the table.
Sit with me.
She hesitates for a moment, then slips down off her stool at the counter and joins him.
Do you know who I was before I became Red Hood?
You were Robin, right? Like your brothers?
Yeah, Jason confirms. I was the second Robin. Do you know why I stopped?
Lian shakes her head. Jason nods and takes a deep breath.
When I was 15, I found out that the woman who had raised me was not my birth mother.
She's crying by the time he finishes his story. Jason finds himself out on his balcony when Lian finally goes to sleep. He wants nothing more than for it to be a rooftop in Crime Alley. He wishes he were home. He sits down in the darkest corner of it and cries, telling Lian all of that. It's taken pretty much everything he has. He didn't want to have to be the one who would shatter Lian's rose-colored glasses of the world of superheroes and villains that she's grown up in. She's not naive. She's never been naive. But her parents have done a pretty damn good job of protecting her from the most visceral reality of their world. He wishes he didn't have to be the one to tell her. He wishes she wasn't so far in already to a world with no place for a child. He wishes she hadn't lost so much to it already. He wishes Roy was here.
I miss you,
Jason whispers to the stars he can't see.
I miss you every fucking day, you stupid bastard. How dare you?
His breath hitches.
How dare you go where I can't follow you? You aren't supposed to leave me here, behind. I'm supposed to be able to rescue you. I'm supposed to be able to save you.
His eyes burn, but his tears have already run their course.
Whoever gets to the top first is supposed to reach back down to pull the other one up. Where's your hand, Roy? You were always supposed to bring me with you. Please, Roy. Damn it. Damn you. But I want to go with you.
He's getting pretty fucking sick of the city that never sleeps. Dawn comes early, and with it brings Jade Nguyen, who invades his apartment and steals his coffee and says she's taking Lian for the weekend. She cites his insistence that Lian finishes the school year as the reason she's forced to take her on weekends. Jason's pleasantly surprised that Jade dropped everything to come when her daughter asks, but maybe he shouldn't be so surprised anymore. Jade does love her daughter. Jason says she has to call school if Lian's going to miss the day, but that she gets to go out early anyway, since it's a Friday. Work is long and tedious and uneventful, but as the long, tedious, uneventful day draws to a close, Jason finds himself and Diana almost done with the documents for this one investment case, so they continue on. He's grateful for the quiet. He doesn't have the energy for Neal Caffrey today. He's drained. He doesn't even have the energy to be sad. Wait, don't you have to pick up Lian? The agent looks up, noticing the time for the first time in a couple of hours.
Her mom took her for the weekend,
Jason explains, and they continue on in silence. How old is Lian's mom, anyways? Diana asks, offhandedly almost half an hour later, when they're nearly finished.
34, I think.
She says shortly. And you're 26.
I'm not 26.
Sure. And Lian is almost 10. Jason sets down his pen. He doesn't like where this conversation is going. So that would mean Jade was 25. She pauses. And you were 16.
Diana.
Neal, she interrupts him, face hard. Were you or were you not 16? He tries to think of anything to say, any kind of cover he can spin, but he can see in Diana's eyes that it's too late. He lost the moment his concussed memory had spat out the wrong birthday. I cannot fucking do this today, he thinks bitterly.
I would have been 16,
he finally admits.
But I wasn't.
He sighs, still looking down at his paperwork.
Because I'm not Lian's biological father.
Diana stares at him. Who are you lying to protect?
For once, Diana, I'm not lying about this.
Convince me, she says, crossing her arms. I don't want to think this is what I think it is, Neal. But what it looks like is you trying to protect your abusive ex who assaulted you. Jason flinches.
Is that really what my life looks like from the outside? Jade and I were not involved until much later. Lian was already 4 or 5 when I met her.
He sighs.
It didn't last long with Jade, but Lian really latched onto me. She hasn't really had anybody else to fill that role, and I don't think there's been another after me. I just saw this kid who needed somebody, and I could be that somebody. So I'm her dad now. No genetics or court or CPS or anybody is taking that away from us.
And what are you going to do when her mom finds someone else who she wants Lian to call her dad? Diana asks. That's just going to break both of your hearts. Does Lian know you aren't her real father?
She's 9 years old, Dee. You've met Jade. She's not keeping a long-term partner around. And Lian does know. It doesn't matter to us, whether or not she's somebody else's. I'm the only one that's here.
You lied to us, Diana says. All those documents for her identity were fabricated. How could you do this, Neal?
Because it was the right thing to do, he states. Why the hell wouldn't I? She'd have gone straight into the foster system until I could get a hold of her mother or her grandparents. Her grandparents who let this happen with their negligence. And her mother. I think you all know Jade is suspicious, but she is beyond suspicious, Diana. How could I leave Lian there? I asked her, you know.
He smiles.
I gave her options. She said she wanted to stay with me. She picked me. I can never let her down like that. That's why.
Neal, you could go back to prison for this.
Are you planning to snitch, Diana?
He watches her. He can tell the moment that she realizes that she's the only one who knows. It's not a matter of him being found out. She's the only one who could report him. It's on her. She looks down at the table. No, she decides. I won't. Jason resists the urge to sigh in relief.
When does it end? Do I have to die again to catch a fucking break?
Lian is back on Sunday night in time for dinner. Jason can't really express his feelings as he sees her. He wasn't sure if she would come back. He's not sure very much lately. Jason does what any bat does best, and pretends everything is fine. Hey, Jay? She asks quietly. Can I help you make dinner? He thinks she's gotten taller since she came to live with him. He wishes, desperately, painfully, that he could trade places with Roy so that he could be with his little girl. Instead, he smiles and pats her head.
I would love your help, kiddo. Grab the olive oil.
Peter stares at himself in the mirror. It feels strange to look so himself again. It's not his usual work suit, but it's still the first time he's worn one in weeks. He's been living in hospital gowns and loose, easy-to-slip-on clothing since his injury. None of that is appropriate for their destination tonight. He and Elle are going to the theater. The curtain rises to a French prison yard, a recently released convict, and a detective inspector who will spend the rest of his life hunting him down.
Peter, I definitely cannot watch Les Miserables with you.
He has a feeling he's about to find out exactly why.